In the year 878, the Danish host rode over Wessex and occupied it, and drove a great part of the inhabitants over sea, and of the rest the greater part they reduced to submission, except Alfred the king. And he with a small company moved under difficulties through woods and marshes. Then in the 7th week after Easter he rode to Egbert Stone, to the east of Selwood, and came to meet him there the men of Somerset and Wiltshire and Hampshire, and they received him warmly. And one day later he went from those camps to Ely Oak, and thence to Eddington, and there he fought against the entire host and put it to flight.
My father worked here in the foundry, yes. Oh, yes. I was born in the village.
Well, we only had 24 hours really to find somewhere. We were very hard pushed for time. And this estate was the only estate at the time that was being built.
How long have the millers been farming around Bourton?
Oh, ever since 1895, which is 90 years, 88 years.
And here we've been for 6 years next week.
And we rarely came because we wanted to go somewhere where we hadn't been before and we didn't know. And we didn't know Bourton, did we?
All my life, since my father moved here in 1945.
We as a family, or rather I as an individual, got fed up with Birmingham, and I took a very high-handed action, removed my family by resigning from my job. And we looked for the largest patch of green in the countryside in the southwest, and we came here.
58 years tomorrow.
All your life?
Yes.
What brought you to Bourton?
The women.
I'm an air traffic controller, and I work in the Middle East in an airport called Salalah, which is on the south coast of Oman.
I see. How often do you come back, and how long do you have over here?
Well, I'm on bachelor contract, and the terms of the contract are that I serve 5 months in Salalah, and then I get 1 month's leave. So it's twice in a year that I get back, twice in 12 months. Bourton it's rural England. There's a quietness about it, and a peace about it, and a friendliness about it.
Do you keep any animals yourself, Dan?
I eat a couple of ferrets and a couple of cats.
What do you use the ferrets for?
Rabbit occasionally.
Where do you get a ferret from?
Well, those two that we've got were wild. Escaped from somewhere and we picked them up.
Do the old people around here ever think of going out and buying anything like that?
I shouldn't think so. I should think if they want one, they usually find somebody else who's got them.
Important in that it's the first home we've had of our own. We've always lived in government houses all our married life.
Well, I like to be where I can get out the country easily because I like walking, and I can do that here.
What do? Well, I've got a few cattle, as you can see, which I usually rear on my Jersey cow. It's calves, and I put them out here, and they go on to stores, and I usually send them off to stores, sell them in stores.
How old is the cow now?
How old is the cow? Holly is 15. And she's got 2 children now, one of her own and one foster child. Which she is rearing. And I milk her every morning and have the milk for the house, and the rest, the calves do the rest.
And you've been involved with horses quite a lot as well, I believe.
Well, not well, a certain amount. I've got a half share in a racehorse now, which has just gone. I've had here for his summer holidays, and he's just gone back into training.
Hunt's Directory, 1851. Here is an iron foundry, a linen manufactory, another for flax spinning and the making of shoe thread, and a tannery, so that altogether there is considerable employment for the operative classes. In 1841, Bourton had a population of 976. Post office at Water Spices, letters were received via Wincanton at 9 a.m. Alfred William Baker. Baker Sarah, grocer and general dealer. Bell Luke Taylor. Charlton James stonemason. Chubb Thomas beer retailer. Clarence George commission agent. Collins John blacksmith.
Do you know what this place is called?
Bourton, is it? Zeal, sorry, Zeal. Zeals, yeah.
Anyway, what would be your rough impression of how many people live here? Is it a big place?
So there's about 2,000 people.
What sort of things do you think people would do for a living in this neck of the woods?
A lot of farming. A lot of fruit farms, I suppose. It's a trout farm over there, I noticed.
How would you like to live in a place like this?
I couldn't. There's no work for me.
What sort of thing do you think we do for a living?
Well, it must be rural. The whole thing must be agriculture. Nothing else. That's it.
Well, I would imagine mainly farming, I would think. There's no industrial area around here that I know of.
What would you think were the main changes since the turn of the century?
I don't know enough about the indigenous industries around here. It's terribly agricultural. Nothing much seems to have changed since then. There are no industries around apart from 1 or 2 Wincanton transport depots. I would have thought very little. I think that it's simply running down as fewer and fewer people work on the land, and the younger people don't necessarily want to stay in that industry.
I should think it was a quiet, sleepy little hamlet with its own little individual factories, if I can call them that.
Trades.
Sailmakers, trades, yes.
Yes.
I should think it was a nice, comfortable little village.
Yes.
Seriously.
Jack Moores, ex-foundryman, landlord of the Red Lion until 1960, spar maker, and much more.
I started off by making shell caps when the war was on. They used to make everything down there. See, they used to make these cider mills down at Hindley's. You know, and then we used to make the saw bench and the floor.
What about steam engines? Did you make steam engines?
Well, they used to make steam engines down there, yeah. High-speed shipping engines, do they used to make high-speed dynamo engines. Oh, yeah, they used to. And one of the boilers that they used to make was one of the best in England. They go and send them all over the world, China, all sorts. What a hell of a lot of work they used to do. A great gas engine. What they used to call a ST gas engine. 5-cylinder. Used to take about 10 horses to pull up over the hill up to the church on a trolley. Yeah.
But you eventually went off to the war, didn't you, and came back again?
Yes, I did, yes.
Did you see any connections abroad with Bourton? I seem to remember you telling us.
Oh, yes, I did, in Bombay docks, yes. One of the crane side docks in Bombay was had a placard or a big plate riveted to the crane with Hymnes of Bourton, Gillingham, Dorset, England. Yes, that's right, Bombay docks.
Well, I had to go to Hymnes. Didn't want to go there because that was indoor work. I wanted to be outside. And of course, Father worked there, and I had to go there. And
what sort of work did you start on when you went to Hindley's?
Oh, munition. Turning shell caps.
And how did you take to that?
Oh, damn the job. I didn't like it. And then they wanted me to work a big drilling machine. I wouldn't do it.
Why was that?
I didn't like the damn job. And he said, well, you had to go down the moulding shop. And that's where I finished up. Yeah. Oh.
I had about 6 months in the foundry, but I found that was much too inside for me. I used to get awfully tired. I was only young. I used to make rings for go in the boilers. I used to make boilers there, you see. My father put 39 years, 7 months in there as a skilled turner.
Did he want you to go into the foundry?
Well, he would have liked me, but I just couldn't stick inside, but always tired.
1st of June 1929. To the employees of Bourton Foundry. Since our lease expired last year, everything possible has been done to secure a new lease. The landlords absolutely refused to grant a new lease unless the boiler making was stopped. Consequently, arrangements have been made for this branch of the business to be acquired by a firm of
are well known in almost every country of the world. Last week, the tools, machines and general engineering stock was sold by auction. The workshops, shafting, benches, etc. have been retained in the hope of the foundry's reopening at some later date.
When the foundry closed, a lot of the people that worked here in the village had to go away. In fact, some went to King's Lynn. A lot of people went to King's Lynn. Whether the owners of the foundry moved, I think they must have moved to King's Lynn and took some of the skilled workers with them. And I suppose, you know, really and truly, it's a sad thing when a factory closes. You know, it puts a lot of people out of work. And it's a lot of people all in one go, that's the thing. It's not so easy then to find another job, is it? When there's so many out of work. I can remember when they opened this up as a milk factory. I think it was about 1936, 7, something like that. And I can remember after the foundry had been closed, this was all sort of derelict. And when they started to open it up, you know, all the workmen they had here, they had Germans over here to put the drying plant in. I mean, I was only a child, but I can remember it all sort of setting up here again.
We changed the jobs 4 times a day, don't we? Is it 4 times? We move around and have a change.
But how many women work in the factory as opposed to men?
Let's see, there's about 8 of us now, I think. Actually working in the factory. I mean, there's the office staff and the lab and the canteen, but actually working in the factory, there's about 8 of us. People don't leave. Once you come down here for a job, you don't leave it. I think most people are quite happy here, aren't they? Yes.
David Young, manager of St Ivel Milk Products Factory.
Well, there are 71 people on site, including myself. Almost everyone is local, and by local I throw the net as far as Mere and Gillingham and the villages and places in between. Most people again with local background. In fact, there are 3 particular families within this factory who must form somewhere in the region of 40% of the workforce.
So, as with the foundry before, really, there's a family tradition in the place.
Oh yes, a number of operators on the site here can trace back ancestors who have worked in the factory at different stages of its life. But one of the beauties of working on a site like this is that labour turnover is virtually nil. We've not really had to consider any policy decision on recruitment for the last 2 or 3 years. Normally, though, it would tend to be the local people who have easy access to the factory, bearing in mind we need to work 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. At the moment, we are having certain problems with the supply of a certain ingredient of oils for our powders, and we have found a 100% price rise in 2 months for one food ingredient. Everyone is caught by that particular price rise, caused by weather conditions in the production areas, and yet we still have to hold the price of our products steady in order to attract customers. So the marketplace is always a threat to us. Some of the plant here has a lower capacity than more modern units, and a lower capacity is an advantage when you're producing a specialised product of high value. One doesn't want to commit high volume plant to produce a small amount of product. The plant itself is ideally suited to producing certain of those ingredients. But a factory like Bourton, with a large important piece of equipment like a spray dryer, still contributes well to the remaining factories within Unigate.
Some people might think, though, that this factory is a bit of an anachronism, having old buildings, which it inherited, and perhaps a rather aged plant in some cases. And how would you respond to that?
To a certain extent, yes, I would agree with them. The factory has been added to over the years. The plant, wherever it is housed, still does the same job. It makes the upkeep a little more difficult, but then again we don't carry the same high capital costs that some of the more modern units do. Personally, wherever I would work, then certainly my ambitions and hopes are thrown totally into that site and the people on that site. During the course of the next few years we would certainly hope to not only improve the cost effectiveness of the site, but look towards development of new products. We have a development unit at Wincanton, and when that development unit comes up with ideas for new products, then we certainly offer our facilities and ourselves towards producing those new products. Should new plant be involved in the future, then we have a certain amount of space that we may be able to offer. There again, these are rather ambitions rather than policies of the company at the moment. People do relate to each other rather more than they do in the larger units, particularly units that are in town situations, where at the end of the day people spread and go their separate ways.
There's a lot of us have been here a long time, so it can't be that bad, can it?
Yeah.
Really?
You find it a friendly place?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's one big family, really. I mean, we all know everybody here. When we have our annual dinner, you know, it's a big family party, isn't it?
Yeah.
How long did you work at Hindley's for?
14 years. 14 years. I'm moulding for 14 years nearly. 13 years I was moulding for certain, or more. No, I left just before he closed. And they sent for me to come back to Hindley's. And I wouldn't go. Father come home and he said, "Yeah, you got to go and see Harcourt." He was living up here in the Orchard Cottage, what they call Orchard Cottages. Oh, I said, "I ain't going down there." He said, "You go down." So I went off down and he said, "Want you back at work tomorrow?" I said, "Well, I ain't coming. I finished. I'll come down and get me cards." And I finished for Hindley's. And then the bloke asked me if I'd go across to Wisley Farm, help haymaking, And I went across there, 3 of us. And at night they said to me here, he said, "Would you come again?" They said, "Don't worry about the other 2, but would you come again?" I said, "Oh, I'll come again." Then I lived in out there for a bit. Oh, I've done some hard work with my time. Yeah.
Any idea what you're going to do for a job, if you have a job?
Farming. I hope farming. I want to do farming, go to college, I expect. Because I like farm. I go and help my uncle and Mr. Puddy and that. I used to help my uncle every summer, getting all the hay and that in.
I'll be a farmer.
What sort of farming?
Like Gerald and Mr. Taylor down the bottom.
Work with cows and so on?
Yeah.
Oh, there.
Geoffrey Miller, farmer, district councillor, chairman of Bourton Parish Council.
How would this scene today have been different in your father's day when you just came into farming?
Well, we used to cut with a binder, you know, in stook, which was awful hard work compared with what it is nowadays. You know, a lot more labour, a lot more men involved. You know, for an exercise like this field, instead of taking 2 days, would have taken perhaps a week, with 5 times as many men. The scene is completely different, isn't it? You know, there's no comparison really. You know, we used to have about 4 or 5 horses all the time, you know, on a comparatively small farm. You know, using them for wagon work and horse and cart work. Well, general work about the farm, even ploughing. I never did any ploughing, but I can remember it being done. You know, 2 shires in a single furrow plough. I think one was aware that a horse was an animal, nearly human, some of them we understand, and then they had to be treated as such, whereas a tractor, as long as its service, goes on forever. You know, you don't have to worry about the tractor being worn out, whereas certainly you had to, you know, respect a horse the same as you would a person.
It looks like a hot job. Do you enjoy this part of the year's work?
Oh, we enjoy it. Yes, it's harvest. You know, it's cash coming in, isn't it? Really. Oh yes, it's enjoyable to a degree. You know, all right, we're dirty and messy. That's part of our job. You know, whatever we're doing, we're dirty and messy.
We hear about large companies taking over farms. Is there any evidence of that here, around Bourton?
Not around Bourton, no. No, it happens in Dorset, doesn't it? You know. Yes, you know, some big companies farm vast areas, but not locally. No. Family farm will always survive if any farm does, basically, because you know labour costs are at a minimum. You know, a son, you know, hopefully will accept less than a hired man. You know, and it's probably eating the same potatoes as it were. I guess that, you know, a family farm will survive in more difficult times than a place with, you know, high employment, high overheads. You know, and then there's one big farming company that was farming in a very big way of business, and they found the pressures on about 2 or 3 years ago and sold all their cows, literally all their cows, and sold off a lot of the farms as well, just because the pressure was too great. We only employ one man, basically, to milk the cows, and there's always going to be room for young fellows, better be careful, any fellows that you know, have got an aptitude for this sort of work. You know, I think there's always a chance of men working on the farm, hopefully, anyway. You know, the conditions are better now than they've ever been, really, for working on farms. You know, you've got tractors with cabs, don't get out in the cold winter weather like you used to years ago. Oh yeah, I think that it's quite attractive, really. Wages are possibly not what they ought to be, but if they put in long enough hours and work hard enough, you know, they're comparable with other industries. No, I'm doing it because I love doing it. Apart from making a living, making a meager living, but we love doing it. You know, it's always a challenge. And when somebody says, "Oh, where are you going on holiday?" Well, we're going on holiday in West Bourton, and we love doing it.
Have you ever considered doing anything else?
Not lately. There was a period when I was about 18. I thought I should be looking at other things, but that soon passed. That soon passed. Yes.
Gerald Moores, tenant farmer.
How long have you been farming here, Gerald?
All my life. Since my father moved here in 1945.
And you took on the farm from him?
Yeah.
Did you ever think of doing anything else?
No.
Why not? You just didn't want to leave Bourton, or?
No interest in anything else.
I mean, do you have any help on the farm?
Only casual help.
In other words, you do it all yourself?
Yeah.
Because you're renowned for sort of speeding around the village and working a very long day. Do you think people that live in the village understand what you do?
A few of the people that have lived here all their lives, yes. But there's very few of those left.
But how many? About what percentage do you think live in the village now?
I don't know exactly, but I wouldn't have thought there's any more than about 10% of them.
How do you feel about that?
Well, there's nothing I can do about it. I suppose it's just a fact.
I mean, do you think it's a shame that the village has changed? You know,
In a way, yes. It's changed a lot.
In what way?
I suppose there's very few people actually work here nowadays. Most of them seem to work outside the village.
Can you, I suppose when you were small, the village was pretty well self-contained, wasn't it? I mean, you didn't have to.
Fairly well.
Do you think that makes for a better village than it is now?
I'm not sure where it's better or worse.
Les Butler, Parish Councillor.
When they built the housing estate across the road, that's a lot of houses, and we all said then, where they all going to work, but apparently they've all got jobs. But I don't think the young children have, you know, the school leavers, but then there isn't many school leavers who haven't got jobs in Bourton. But then since those houses have been here, their children are still growing up, you know what I mean? There'll be perhaps a dozen or 2 dozen school leavers when they're old enough, rather than just the odd half a dozen we used to have every year.
Do you think that their future in the village, you know, if they want to stay here, is that dependent to an extent on the milk factory, would you say?
Oh, I'd say to a certain extent, not to about 50%, I'd say, of them would work down there. 50% of the youngsters for sure. But otherwise, people do go, you know, get jobs and still live here. Like in Wincanton and various other places. Because lorry driving's a favourite occupation, isn't it, amongst the men especially.
To your knowledge, does that employ many people in the village?
Got lorry driving? Oh Lord, yeah. I mean, I suppose every 3rd man you talk to is a lorry driver.
Derek Hiscox, lorry driver for Wincanton Transport Limited.
How important is Wincanton Transport as an employer around here?
I would say very important, because it's one of the largest employers in the area.
Are there other people, apart from yourself, in the village of Bourton who work?
Not as many now, but 7 or 8 years ago there was 5 drivers lived in this row alone. Of the 20 houses, 5 of them had drivers. They encourage the family type of thing, you know. And my own son is followed in on another field, the engineering field, like.
Isn't it a bit of a lonely job sometimes?
Oh yes, but then you can't fall out with anybody, really, can you? You know, say this is the point of it, but it's a type of job you've got to get used to. You either accept it or you don't.
What sort of things do you convey around the country? And most people probably think it's just milk.
Well, the main item is milk, but we do anything from fuels, petrol, oils, edible fats, sugar, granulated sugar, any liquid, we cater for it.
What do you like about it?
Basically, once you, on my side of it, once you take over the vehicle, you're in charge, you've got some responsibility. So you could have thousands of pounds worth in your hands, and order, you know, and this is the main thing of it, which I think is lost a lot nowadays.
How does working on the rota system you describe affect your relations with the village? I mean, do you have a lot to do with the rest of the village?
No, you're unable to participate in a lot of this. A few years ago, I played with the Mere Town Band for about 5 or 6 years, but I found I couldn't keep it up for the simple reason of the shift idea we work, you know.
Paul Orr, partner Bourton Fencing.
What sort of work do you actually do? What's the range of your work?
All types of fencing, from start to finish. Chain link, overlap panels, gates, farm fencing, deer fencing. We like to specialise in fencing only. We don't do anything else but fencing, other than our sheds, which we make.
And most of this is made on site, in fact?
Yes, all our sheds are made on site.
What's the split between farm work and items you sell to the public?
I would think the contracting side is about 40-60. Contracting is about 40 of the gross turnover, and the sales are about 60.
So there's quite a strong relationship with agriculture.
Oh yes, yes.
Do you employ other people at all, or is it totally a family concern?
Oh no, we employ other people.
Any of them local?
Yes. There's one in Zeals, one in Sturton, 2 in Mere, not very local. One from Templecombe, and one did live in Bourton, but he's just moved, unfortunately, West Bourton.
What advantages and disadvantages do you see, from the business point of view, in operating in a village like this one?
Well, the road plays a big part. It's the passing traffic. People get to know us, and it's a prime site. And we're lucky that we're in a village and in not a big town, because I like the village life and I like to know people.
But would a quiet village without the main road work from the business point of view?
I don't think so. I think I'd have to advertise a lot more than I do.
So what, in the event of a bypass, what would that mean to you?
Probably hit the sales a lot. Although I think I'd probably welcome it, a bypass.
How well has living in Bourton fitted in with your careers?
Well, unfortunately my husband's job didn't come quite as we hoped it would, and he's been very unlucky. This would have been the 3rd redundancy in his particular field, which was as a design draftsman. And before the redundancy came, he had seen an advertisement for the TOPS courses for a clerk of works, but that would mean he had to go to Hastings, and this is what he did. And he went away for a year to Hastings Technical College, and he has just come back. He came back in May, having finished all his examinations, and he's now managed to get a job in Dorchester, working for the Dorchester Council as a clerk of works.
Is it possible you might have to consider moving?
Well, this particular type of employment seems to come under contract 6 monthly, yearly, 2 yearly. So at the moment we're quite happy to stay here and for him to travel, possibly have to live away and come home at weekends, rather than up and move every time the contract ends, which could be, as I say, yearly or 2 yearly.
Dr. Michael Plaxton, local GP.
I think the number of people in the village employed at the Unigate Creamery has remained pretty well the same, and But I think other people are finding employment outside the village. And of course, the other most important thing I think that even I can see is that the number of people employed on the local farms has diminished with the increasing mechanisation, these capital-intensive farming, and so people are travelling further. And of course, the newcomers in Millrise and New Close, majority of them travel far beyond the village boundaries to earn their daily bread.
What sort of employment are the newcomers to the village benefiting from?
Well, we have a number of employees for Plessy Marine at Temple Combe. The people have chosen to come here to the new houses that have been built on Millrise and New Close, and they have outward-going people, many of them, and they're young, with young families, and I think they provided what I call a transfusion to some aspects of our village here, and I'm sure that if there hadn't been some of these families moving in to Millrise and New Close, some of our facilities that we hold rather dear, which is having a village school, might well have been at risk.
Do you feel this is the future for employment in a rural area like this? I mean, is it unreasonable to expect truly local work in these days of mobility?
I'm afraid I do, yes. And I don't think that that's a hot topic at the moment. I don't think there's going to be heavily subsidised occupations actually within the curtilage of the village, if you like. People are mobile. As far Plessis, for example, run a transport around the villages, and other industrial organisations in Canton do as well. So I don't think distance doesn't seem to be any hardship now. And people choose to live, and people have chosen to live. Well, I suspect probably when the price is right, and people have chosen to live in Bourton.
The reason why I stayed in Bourton is because my job, before I took the milk factory job, I used to work in Gillingham, Sherman Chemicals. If I had that job now, I think we'd moved out of Bourton.
Obviously, I mean, the job's the thing that makes it possible for you to live here.
Yeah, this is it, you know, like I said, but if it closed down, then perhaps we might think about moving away, you know, because there won't be nothing in Bourton.
If you had to work in Gillingham again, or Shaftesbury, or a few miles away, how would you be placed?
Push bike. That's all that's all they'd be able to. That's the only transport I would have, is push bike.
What's the bus service like?
Terrible.
Yes.
Really, because I think you'd be able to get to work to Gillingham roughly by about 8, but Shaftesbury, I don't think you'd make that at reasonable time.
I mean, if you didn't work here, is there anywhere else in Bourton you could work?
Not really, no. You'd have to go to the village for work.
So if there was no employment in the factory, you would have to travel?
Yes, yes.
And what about public transport? Is that easy? You live in Gillingham.
Yes.
Now, how do you get in?
Moped.
Moped, yeah. You couldn't get a bus?
No, not that time in the morning.
I mean, I was out of work 6 months before I came here. And I'd worked in the shop all my life.
Was it quite stiff competition to get a job here? I mean, did a lot of people apply?
Well, I came temporary, and for 3 months, and then I think it was about 3 or 4 months after a vacancy came up, so I was glad to get the job.
I reckon they want to try and get some sort of light industry going. Not necessarily in Bourton, but in the local locality somewhere. Because, I mean, the young people who get married, they move away. Because there's no houses, there's no work, which I think is a bad thing.
I don't see why some industry shouldn't come into the village. I haven't studied what applications has been in the last few years, but there could be other employment come here in a small way, or because to run a main trunk road, this is the main item of it.
The loss of people to towns, the lack of employment in the area. I think it must be a problem that we found certainly If you've got money, it's an attractive place to live. If you don't have money, it's very difficult. And I would have thought that Bourton will suffer, as there are fewer and fewer young people around with any money. That there must be a drift away. There's nothing to keep them here.
What do you think the future holds for you?
It's difficult to say.
If you're staying at school, aren't you?
Another year, yeah.
And then what will you be doing?
Round here, not a lot, I should know. Not a lot career-wise, anyway.
What do you intend leaving the village then?
I think it's a case of having to at the moment.
Do you want to?
Not really, no.
What is it about the village that makes you want to stay?
Have you ever lived in a town?
What is it about the town that you dislike so much?
Big, noisy, horrible places, really. Country bumpkin at heart, I suppose.
Yeah. Trying to get that word in.
About 5 years, I think, for my apprenticeship.
What sort of apprenticeship is that?
Thatching. When that's finished, I can move out, hopefully.
You want to leave Bourton?
Yeah.
Why? What is it about it you didn't like?
Well, for a start, there's a lot of factories in this area. It's about 4 or 5 in this immediate vicinity. So if I move out, I'll have less competition in some place else, hopefully.
And you want to set up on your own?
Yeah, I will do. After a while.
What made you decide to become a thatcher?
Well, I tried to get in the Navy and didn't get into that. And I knew the thatcher and he offered me a job. I was leaving school, so I accepted it. I didn't want to become unemployed. I found I liked it.
Are you finding it hard? I mean, are you looking for jobs around here?
Yeah, there isn't anything.
There's nothing.
You've either got to be able to drive or experienced or something.
Yeah.
There is, if you really, well, you've got to, there are jobs if you don't mind doing anything.
But you look in the Western, they're either over 22 or
able to drive.
experienced or able to drive. There's nothing in our region.
No, I'm thinking of leaving the school because, well, honestly, things aren't going too well there. The course that I'm doing, English and art, but I'm not too sure because it's hard finding a job. But I could always work with my dad on the farm, so.
You would rather stay and work on the farm, would you?
I don't know. I'd rather find a job in an office or something. I wouldn't mind working in a bank or some sort of office job. But if I have to, I could stay on the farm. So.
Oh, but are there many of those sort of office jobs around here?
No, unless you're experienced.
There's nothing unless you're experienced.
So, I don't know. I'm thinking about taking a part-time course on it, the college where you can go for college sort of 6 months and then work for the other 6, in which I could work with Dad and get experience elsewhere, try and get it.
Yeah. And you were just fortunate that the job you wanted was there?
Yeah, well, I worked at the stables in the holidays and weekends, and when one of the girls left, I said that I'd like to fill in their place.
Are you glad you haven't had to leave the area?
Yes, I am. So my family's around here, and I've lived here all my life, and I don't think I could leave it. I just like it too much.
So you will be staying on the stables as long as you can?
As long as I can.
I don't know many people that have had to really move away. Not too far,
A lot of people stayed on at school.
Well, yeah,
in the
especially the
hope that
past
it'll
2
be
years.
better in a year or two.
They didn't get.
Yeah, there were about 70 stayed.
Well, this year they stopped people from staying on because there were too many who wanted to stay on.
So they stopped you from staying and they stopped setting you from staying?
Yeah, instead of.
Bourton Post Office, for your friendly and personal service. Don't let us become one of the many shops that are closing today. Use us or lose us.
I work for a merchant bank. Merchant bank? If I can do some overtime on Sunday.
always be a welcome for you at Red Lion, Bourton.
My name is Roger Summerfield. I carry out car repairs and restorations. Free quotation, why not pop down to see me at the bridge at Bourton, or telephone Bourton 840 668.
For all those repairs to your house, from gutters to drains, contact Bourton Property Maintenance. Telephone Bourton 840 598 or 840 861.
If you want to hire a car or a van, come to Bourton Garage.
Come to the specialists, Bourton Fencing, for all your fencing needs. And while you're here, look at our quality sheds and garden furniture.